Thanks for having us. We thought, as Gary said, we'll take you through a little bit of some of what's happening in Canada on the KYC side, and then with Carl, we'll go through kind of a lending journey and as we envision lending coming up. So some of you have seen us talk before about what we're trying to do, but you all know the stats in identity fraud and the number of account takeovers and breaches of banks and breaches of credit card companies where the bad guys have all of our data, right? They have SIN number, they have date of birth, they have everything else. So they're answering questions, and it's becoming fairly problematic, and it's becoming problematic all over the world. So the general philosophy that SecureKey took on this is we think that identity generally is broken, right? It doesn't work well in the call center with people knowing our answers. It doesn't work well in person. It's just too easy to fake a driver's license, and people are showing up at banks and lenders with fake documents, and they can get credit under someone else's name. And it doesn't work well online. So we'll show you kind of what we're doing on the identity front. So SecureKey is a business that has two different services. One you might use, you log into CRA, you can use your bank to log in. And the new one's called Verified Me that lets you share your data to a point where you need it in real time. And that's the biggest one of what SecureKey does. Carl from Equifax can talk about Equifax.
Yeah, I'm actually not going to take you through these bullets because I guarantee everybody in here has been walked through these bullets at some point, and I'm not going to do that today to your friends. A couple of things I want to say. We've been around for about 100 years. You don't get to do that unless you're fairly innovative, so I think that's important to note. The other thing, we have a strong ethic when it comes to partnerships. We have a very strong partnership team here in Canada, and it leads us to be able to exploit some really interesting new capabilities, much like we're doing today with SecureKey.
Okay. So some of the stuff you know already, like concierge, there's 16 million credentials created to go to government. You can log in Quebec. You can log in at the federal government to all of your different services. People trust and like to use their bank, so that's an experience that people like and know. This is the Quebec government. They signed up and added 1 million users in the first 6 months where people could just use their bank to log in for services in government. That's an experience we want to carry to other things. So Verified Me launched just a few months back. And what Verified Me is trying to do, you could picture your lending experience, is let that user, this me in the middle, share her data to places she wants. So she wants to share from her bank that Royal Bank or TD Bank says, yes, this is really Susan or whatever her name is. And wants to share from her telco, yes, she has the phone, the SIM is in the device, the SIM hasn't changed. From her government that she's matched the driver's license face. From agencies like Equifax, here's her credit, here's how long she's been, records and other lines of history. What if she could do that in real time for a lending transaction, which is what Carl will show later, but for all kinds of other identity transactions, we're using this now across Canada. So the experience, this isn't a lending experience, at an apartment could be, hey, I'd like to apply now, put your finger on the RBC app to show it's you, and it asks, are you willing to share your name and address from Royal Bank? Are you willing to share that your credit score is over 500 from Equifax, that you validated your license and your mobile carrier, and if you say yes, you've rented that apartment. So that's the kind of usability people are building with the app, and they're doing it, and partners like Equifax and government are joining us because we have this cyber approach to security, right? We know what I know, you know your bank password, you don't share it. What I have, we make sure you have your mobile phone, the SIM hasn't changed, there wasn't a SIM takeover like you're reading about recently, and what I am, you can match your government kind of documentation. So this new flow that Carl will walk you through is what we call Webflow. It's just launching now, and people are lining up to build this. You'll see banks and others using this flow. It's very similar to the login to concierge in government, and this is kind of how it works. You show up to get a bank account at a bank. You can click to sign up with Verified Me. It'll say, hey, do you have an account at one of these banks? If you choose your bank and you choose RBC, log in at RBC, enter the out-of-band auth we sent to your phone, and we're also checking to make sure the SIM wasn't taken over in your phone. And once you do that, is it OK to share your name, address, date of birth from RBC? And is it OK to share your data from Equifax? So this is instead of answering those questions, yes, it is. Welcome, John. Your account's created. Let's go. So that's the kind of flows that we're trying to create with this new Webflow that come now. There's a whole bunch of data bundles that the network shares, so base profiles from banks, a whole selection you can share from Equifax on identity, a whole bunch from the mobile operator, location of phone, status of phone. And there's more stuff that's coming you'll see this fall. So things like background checks, driver's license, health cards, passports, where I know there's lots of services coming, and there's FinTrack's changing regs to say, hey, you can take a picture of the front of a driver's license, and you can take a picture of the back of the driver's license and do a liveness on your face. And if you match that, then it really must be Carl. But this was an exercise I gave my daughter on the weekend, was can you create a fake Ontario driver's license just with the data? So if you go online, there's a site called Fake Tools. It gives you the PDF document of the Ontario driver's license with every layer and every font. There's 1 billion documents for sale on the black market, driver's license and passports, because all of us have showed our driver's licenses at hotels and to things like Uber and Airbnb and the rest. You can buy the template for $25 with all the PDF layers. Once you buy the template, you basically take the data. You want to generate that PDF on the back. There's a site called PDF 417 Creator. You type the data into the PDF creator. It creates the barcode on the back. You cut and paste the picture and put the appropriate background on it. And none of these tools that check the driver's license can tell the difference between that and real. And it's just trivial, right? So it's great that we're going digital this way. We don't think driver's license by itself is enough. So we're adding, hey, can you log into your bank? Do you have Greg's phone? As a part of our authentication. So that's what you'll see in the verified service. I have Royal Bank. I'd like to add a government document, a driver's license or a passport. If I say yes, I enter my number. It's take a picture of the front, take a picture of the back, and do liveness. And we can share it. You can see the data that we're sharing here. But more importantly, on the back end, we're matching it. So this person not only has Greg's driver's license, not only do we check with the province that it's valid and issued, we also checked he can log into his bank as Greg Wolfond with the same date of birth, and he has Greg Wolfond's phone, and you can go from there. So it's actually a much more secure way. We're thinking about this as a cyber problem. And there's 5 different levels of verification we're doing, from checking the document, checking liveness, checking with state government. Some governments are allowing us to check, some aren't allowing us to check, and then checking against the bank and the telco to go across. So that's kind of the background of what's coming from the attribute side. And then I thought Carl could talk about what an experience might be using this to go forward. So this is a made-up fictitious car company, but it's showing them.
Yeah, thanks. Before I do, though, it's interesting. I always, when I speak to people, talk to them about how easy it is to get fake documents off the web. So it's super interesting that your daughter did that. The other thing you mentioned was SIM swapping as well. It's a huge issue right now. I think there was an RCMP warning that went out just a few weeks back about what's happening there. It's truly terrifying.
Did you guys see the CTV article that happened? Was out yesterday, I think, on some woman's account got taken over. This is thousands of people it's happening to every day. It's really easy to go into a telco and say, I'm Carl, tell them the phone number and the account number, and they'll transfer the SIM. And then within minutes, they try to take over a bank account, they try to take over your Google Docs, they mine your email for contacts, and they do nasty, nasty things.
Download every single FI app and try and request a password reset, and they send you something to your phone. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's truly terrifying.
Yeah.
And it happens so simply. Because all they do is they ask you to call you up and say, hey, can you confirm your last 3 digits of your postal code and your account number?
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk about just very briefly is a user experience, and in this one, it's an auto loan. So Ride Finance have very smartly included an option to verify yourself using the Verified Me app, which I think is a very wise decision.
The green button.
The green button. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Back one. There we go. So once done, I can then choose to sign in using one of my financial institutions. This is quite good. And actually, I did it last year doing my taxes, so I should be relatively comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Once done, I'm directed to the RBC site. That's the bank that I chose. I will enter my username and password. And in doing so, it's now going to send me to an out-of-band authentication, which again is important to make sure that I am who I say I am. It's not enough just to know that there is an identity. You have to make sure that you are the owner of the identity as well. So in sending a one-time password to my phone, that's an extra layer and something that is important. Authenticate myself. There we go. So this is actually quite a key screen, and I want to spend a little time on it here. So what we're seeing is some of the information that will now be shared with Ride Finance when I'm trying to get my auto loan. So you recall I authenticated myself with RBC. What RBC is going to share into the network is the base profile. So there's going to be PII that I have at RBC. RBC will have done their diligence to make sure I am who I say I am. That is now going to be shared securely through the network. I'm looking for auto finance, which mandates I need some credit information. So Equifax will provide, again, some more PII, belt and braces always make sense, a credit score, and some other eligibility criteria, which will typically have been defined by Ride Finance at the point they're setting themselves up. In addition, and as an extra layer, the driver's license, the picture that Greg just took, will be uploaded and also sent over to Ride. And I think you'll note on the screen the little arrows there. If you select them, I believe it actually shows you.
It pulls your data down.
It actually shows you the data that's going to be shared. So that's pretty key, and it's something that Alex Tapscott just spoke about in terms of data democratization, making sure that you consent at a point in time for the data that you want to be shared. I click agree. Boom. You have been pre-approved. So between clicking agree and this screen, what the Verified Me service has done is collect data from those parties, shared them privately and securely with Ride Finance, where they have then made their decision and come back to me with an approval. It's fast, secure, trusted, and it's actually quite a easy customer experience.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I think that if you're trying to get to Uberizing or making these flows better, we think that's kind of the best that we can do right now. There's more things that are coming. We did a BCIP with Canada before, showing how we could share data from CRA. So this was the example that we did there. Can I show up to get a credit card in this example and be able to share from my existing bank and from CRA? Here's my income for the last 2 years, or how much room I have left in my RSP or my tax-free savings account. That's other data bundles you're going to see coming down the pipe. Takes a while with government, but we're hopeful that comes. But the idea of being able to get the bank data, telco data, Equifax data, driver's license and passport, and then other things coming is what we think is important to the network. And then we're working closely with Equifax, because if you've got use cases, you should be able to come and get this data, connect to the network quickly, and be able to consume it.
And just one of the use cases I want to outline. I'm not sure how many people here. I'm sure there are some who are mandated to hold a KYC program. One of the next ones that we're looking to activate with the SecureKey team is a dual source AML bundle through the Verified Me network. So using not only the Equifax AML Assist product and the various configurations there, but also using the base FI bundle that will come through from the RBC, in our example, the RBC entity, to actually help drive some pretty quick AML regulatory compliance.
Absolutely. So that's kind of it. I mean, we think this network is for use in cases where you need someone to sign up for a service, where you want to have a higher conversion rate, but you also want to have lower fraud. We think if you're a government agency that's connecting, you want to have lower operational costs and less friction for sign-in, so you could use a bank login. It's more targeted to government kind of sites. But step-up auth is the other one. So I don't know how many people here have had the experience of calling CRA to access your account. Not them calling you for them to ask you that data. I think everyone's got that call. We're all going to jail because we haven't, if we don't do this. But when you ever call them and then try to prove who you are to get access to service, it's cumbersome and it's costly to them, right? It costs them $18 a call to do call center thing. We have this working now in the middle of a call. You can push out to your bank, put your face in front of your bank, ask, are you willing to share your name and address with CRA, and you can continue the call. Things like that are use cases where we're not sure it's the customer. We want to step up auth, or recovery of password, or a lawyer in the middle of a loan transaction gets an email claiming to be from the, one of the parties, and it's saying, hey, direct the funds to this account. It's not really from the party it's supposed to be from. So can I reach out to the real Greg, if Greg's the borrower, and make sure it's him giving me instruction before I go through, and I can't just trust the email line. How do I step up auth in the middle of a transaction to lower business risk and reduce costs versus call center? So those are the kinds of things we're trying to do, and working with great partners like Equifax on. So what are solutions in market? You all have creative ideas and companies on how to make your lending process great. We're not doing that, but we can get the data to the door that you need. So if you have other things that you need, talk to us about what else you'd like to need to make this go faster. The corporate side is coming. So is SecureKey an actual business? Is Greg actually the CEO? That stuff will come through 2020. But we're trying to make this available and make it more safe for we consumers to access services, and harder for the bad guys to become us. So that's kind of the vision of what we're doing here. I think that's kind of it, isn't it? The Verified Me app's available now. You can you can download the app and get a free credit score from Equifax if you want to try
I have it.
the base. Yeah, there you go. You can use one of your banks, and that's kind of our talk for today. So we stayed in schedule.